Okay, 20 seconds. 15. And thanks for being here. This is our Wednesday weekly update from the city. I'll start off with the COVID report. It's becoming less dramatic as time goes on, it appears. The total cumulative positive test results since March are now at a slow increase in Pennington County. Still increasing, but not rapidly. The number of active cases in our community is on the decline. West River hospitalizations for COVID-19 currently exceed East River hospitalizations. And that's no surprise. We saw the numbers reverse just a month or so ago, and we were a fraction of what East River was, and now they are falling, we're rising. The numbers of hospitalizations are concerning, worthy of paying attention to, but manageable. The Oyate Healthcare Center conducted mass testing this weekend, resulted in a little over 180 tests administered with 3 positive results. I think everyone was assuming we would have more from that test. On to COVID relief funding. We just were notified that about a couple of days ago. We had a press conference yesterday talking about it, and it is still too early to say how it's going to be used. Contrary to the opinions on social media, we won't be using it to pay our own salaries, to build a mayoral palace, or any of those type of things. There are a number of out-of-pocket expenses that the city has incurred due to COVID, whether it is emergency sick leave, supplies, equipment, emergency shelter costs, marketing, all of those things we will apply for reimbursement. There's also eligible public safety personnel costs that we will apply for as well. But I just want to be upfront and clear that this award of $17.5 million is more, it's not like winning the lottery. It's a little more complicated than it seems. There's an application process, an approval process. We've pretty much been assured we will receive up to that amount for eligible costs. This does not mean we're going to open the swimming pools. That was one of the first comments on social media. And I understand where it's coming from, but this doesn't mean we're going to start throwing cash at everything that we have reduced over the last few months. It's necessary for us to remain on a tight and responsible budget. We're probably halfway through this pandemic. We don't know what the future will hold for us. So we're going to continue to be careful. And my comments to the city council members as I've talked to them about this is we just need to be as careful and responsible as possible. And that will be a very public issue. The requirements for the COVID funding is that the city council pass a resolution, that there be some understanding about which funds are being applied for. And all those funds must be reimbursed or applied for reimbursement by December 30th this year. Rapid Transit is operating. The drivers are doing well. It seems like everything is smooth on July 3rd or 4th due to the holiday. This year the city holiday is on the 3rd, and they won't run on the 4th as well. So a little bit of planning may be necessary. We are going to reevaluate the limited schedule for Rapid Transit following July 4th. The goal is to return to a normal operating schedule as soon as humanly possible. That will require staffing levels to the staff to be healthy and able and ready to do that work. Generally speaking, the emergency medical service calls with people with symptoms similar to COVID-19 are declining over last week. I think we're seeing a little bit of a trend there. This does not mean we're safe. Does not mean the pandemic's over. It means we're halfway through the pandemic, and tomorrow is still not as predictable as we would hope it would be. So it's still important to protect yourself. It's important to wear a mask when you're out in public, to limit your exposure to crowds, to avoid confined indoor spaces with other people. And obviously, if you're sick, if you have symptoms, it's important and it's your responsibility to stay away from people, especially those close to you, like your family. So none of those best practices have changed. In fact, they may be more important now than ever that we are a state completely devoid of business regulations at this point. So now for some information on the emergency shelter set up by Pennington County and Rapid City, I'm going to introduce Dustin Willett, the Pennington County Emergency Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, my name is Dustin Willett. I'm the Director of Emergency Management for Rapid City in Pennington County. Mayor Allender asked me here today to speak briefly about our temporary emergency homeless shelter. As some may be aware, we made some planning assumptions early on that there was a specific population of our homeless who may need a place to recuperate, to recover, to convalesce. With compassionate and prudent leadership from city and county, we established a shelter operation in Rushmore Hall of the Civic Center. That facility, again through some of those planning assumptions, was designed to house a maximum of 100 shelter participants in addition to the staff. What we have seen is thankfully not the realization of those numbers. So our maximum census in that facility has been 14 to date. That's the most we've ever had in there at one time. That being the case, city and county leadership met again to review both the need and the current scope, scale, and cost of that operation. What came out of that meeting was that a need still exists in the community, and it's a need that the city and the county are still willing to partner together to address, along with a myriad of stakeholders, social service organizations and medical providers in the community. What's been decided is that we will, for lack of a better term, right size, in this case downsize, the number of participants that we're planning for. So we will be sunsetting the shelter operations at Rushmore Hall and moving into a facility that's more commensurate size-wise with the need that we're seeing. So the new facility will be at 725 North La Crosse. It's the old 24/7 site where those operations used to be run, again in conjunction with the city and the county. That facility will be designed for a 20-bed maximum, so we're going from 100 beds down to a 20-bed facility. That reduces some staff needs. It certainly reduces some of the square footage and cost associated with operating a facility the size of Rushmore Hall. So we're looking for cost efficiencies, staff efficiencies, and to have a facility that, again, better fits the current need that we have and forecasted need that we have in our community. We're thankful we didn't need the 100 beds that we had set up for, and this just makes sense to right-size the operation. Everything that we are currently offering at the Civic Center will be offered at the new facility. So there's no reduction in service. It's still designed for homeless individuals to recuperate from a COVID-19 infection, to keep them isolated from others, to help minimize the spread of infection, and again, give them the support and place they need to recover effectively. So with that, I will turn it back over to Mayor Allender, and I'll stick around for any questions.
Thank you, Dustin. And I just want to add on to that the emergency shelter has been one of the things that the city and county has worked on together. This transition into the smaller shelter, I think, really exemplifies the ability of Rapid City and Pennington County to work together. This building at 725 North La Crosse was a building they want to sell to get that money back in the bank for use in other areas. And we've asked them to postpone that and reopen this facility so that we can have this service. It's an essential service intended for the chronic homeless. The chronic homeless are homeless individuals that are not seeking treatment. Many of them are highly addicted to substances. Some are extremely mentally ill or otherwise have some diminished functionality as far as life's everyday tasks. And so therefore they do not follow the rules of social distancing and hygiene. And so the alternative to putting up an emergency shelter as we have and we continue to is allowing these individuals to roam freely out in the community and infect each other and put an undue strain or perhaps an avoidable strain on our medical services. So it's one of those challenges that we face. So 4th of July holidays coming up, Independence Day. The normal Independence Day activities like the city fireworks are being planned, they're scheduled. There's a lot of planning there with public safety and crowd control. Also, the fire department is there to make sure we don't get a fire based on the dry conditions. It is getting to be dry out there. And I'm afraid it's because in the last 2 springs when we were flooding every week, I was praying the whole time for a little drier conditions, so you're welcome. But the consequence of having a little drier is that we have a different set of problems now, and fire is one of them. Not only the organized fireworks that we'll have here in Memorial Park or in the Executive Golf Course area, but also the unorganized fireworks that occur around town. The ordinance that's being used around town over the last couple of years is getting bigger and bigger. There are what sound like literal bombs going off in our neighborhoods. And anyone who owns pets know this is no different than terrorism for pet owners. And you know, it's illegal. I say fireworks are illegal in Rapid City except for the novelty fireworks, the sparklers and the other little things you light and they burn safely. All of the exploding fireworks are outlawed by city law. And so this becomes a very frustrating time for our citizens because they hear fireworks in the neighborhood, they call the police and nothing is done about it. Well, the police, first of all, have an ordinary caseload on these nights that takes up their time. And there is additional staffing for the Independence Day holiday. But they are going to higher priority events. Maybe not higher priority for you if you're trying to get some sleep, but higher priority in the grand scheme of things. So in essence, our workload and our ability to enforce really pushes this fireworks prohibition in the city of Rapid City more to a suggestion. I mean, it is law. You can be cited for it, and it does carry a fine. But if we don't have the ability to uniformly enforce it, it kind of diminishes the effect of having a law. We don't like it any more than anyone else does. My dogs go absolutely nuts during this time of year because it starts, probably start tonight or tomorrow night, and it'll go on through probably the 7th or 8th or 9th of July. It's ridiculous. So I'm just asking everyone to be aware that your neighborhood values its peace and quiet, and these large firework ordinances that you're purchasing, and they're very expensive. I looked at a bunch of them last year to get an idea what was out there. They're extremely expensive. There just has to be a better location and a better time of the day for those. So all of the usual issues are under control, but we have some unusual issues this Independence Day holiday, and that is the President of the United States will be at Mount Rushmore. And a large fireworks display will be there. There are thousands of people who will be there. We expect all types of lookout points to be populated by people all around Mount Rushmore. Traffic could be congested or at a gridlock in some of those areas. So, and with, even if it's a presidential visit not on Independence Day and without fireworks, it's still a huge burden on communities like ours. So we have Independence Day, fireworks at Mount Rushmore, something we haven't had for years, and we have a controversial president showing up in South Dakota. And so now guess who's going to pay for this? We are. We're going to pay for our share. The sheriff's office is going to pay for their share. And the state's going to pay for their share. Federal government will pay for their share of security. Now, this has become an issue really only with this president on who pays. It's become very offensive to taxpayers that they would have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, perhaps, to secure a location and provide security for a president who they hate with all of their soul. And so we have that feeling out there in the community that we should be reimbursed for these types of things. We never have been reimbursed. I personally worked a security detail when George Bush was here, and then also when Ronald Reagan was here, and when several candidates were coming through. This is how communities work. This is how federal politicians, presidents specifically, engage people in normal communities like Rapid City. They come through, and when they come through, there's a number of requirements. We have a very good working relationship with the Secret Service and the Parks Service and the Sheriff's Office and everybody else who has to pitch in and help. So we do that. We do it for every president. We're going to do it for this president, and we're not going to complain about it because this is all about public safety. The alternative is to ban, to refuse to cooperate with other law enforcement agencies, to perhaps try to pocket veto a president coming to Rapid City. He can go anywhere he wants, but we don't want to come here. That's just unreasonable. And there's a lot of division on this, a lot of feelings about this that we'll be seeing in the comments on social media attached to this broadcast. But this is how things go. And this visit is not a campaign visit. This visit is about Independence Day. So loosely related to that, we have several downtown presidential statues. And frankly, when we started putting presidential statues on corners downtown, me personally, I thought, this seems a little silly. Who's going to want to see these statues? Well, I quickly learned that everyone who visits Rapid City wants to see these statues. These are a huge attraction for people. They have 44 presidents on corners in downtown Rapid City. There's a walking tour to learn more about them, and they're from 7 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. There are tourists downtown, ever since they've been statues, tourists downtown taking pictures, reading about these presidents. So that's who wants them. So currently, we're getting calls to remove the Obama statue because Obama was the worst president ever, and he created a divide of the nation and so on and so forth. Not too long ago, during the Kavanaugh Supreme Court hearings, we were getting calls to remove Bill Clinton because Bill Clinton's a rapist and we shouldn't have a rapist on display downtown. And my response to everyone on this is exactly the same. We are the city of presidents. We have statues of 44 presidents of the United States. Every one of them did great things for our country, but every one of them is a sinner. Every one of them has made mistakes, has made a fool out of himself, maybe even embarrassed this country because they're human beings who have risen to the status of president of this great country. We're not removing any of them. And we don't get to judge them based on the flavor of the day, whatever's happening in society. This is who we are. We're the United States of America. We've been led by 44 individual men since the time of George Washington. Okay? So there's also been a number of messages coming to the mayor's office fearing for the security of these statues. One gentleman called us to order us to remove one of the statues. We said that's not going to happen. He said, well, what would happen if I go down there and remove it? Well, I'll tell you what will happen. These are very expensive statues. Each of them are valued well over $100,000, which is a felony, which means you'll have a chance to go to prison for damaging, ruining one of these presidential statues. They're all in well-lit, open areas. We're not going to place security guards down by them, but we're certainly going to take notice of anybody messing with the statues. It's not necessary. It's not going to prove a point. But I'm just telling you that we're here to protect these statues, and that's just the way it is. So that kind of concludes my bullet points on today's update. Are there any questions from people in the room?
Nathan Thompson with the Rapid City Journal, and this question could be for you, Mayor, or for the emergency manager. Related to the sunset of the facility at Rushmore Hall, that's scheduled to close Friday, is that correct?
That was the original date for a hard closure of that facility, and I was remiss in not mentioning those dates. So currently, we expect the North La Crosse facility to be operational on July 6th, and city-county leadership are committed to not having a lapse in service to the folks that we're currently serving at the Civic Center. So we will extend the operations at Rushmore Hall at least through the 5th until we're ready to transfer those operations, those staff members, and those participants to the new facility on North La Crosse. And again, tentatively, that date's set for July 6th.
What is the expected cost for the extension of the operations at the new facility?
I don't have a dollar figure to give you. I can tell you that the renovations that were required, the additions that were required to transform the Rushmore Hall into an appropriate shelter are not required at this facility. This facility's design and fitment are very conducive to this type of operation that we're trying to run. It would not have held 100 people, which is why we did the original operation at the Civic Center. But there's that same level of retrofitting is not required. So primarily what we're doing up there is cleaning the facility, moving some of the beds that we have at Rushmore Hall up to that facility. So costs will actually, our daily, we call it a burn rate, but our daily cost for operating that shelter is anticipated to decrease at the new facility. We shouldn't see any significant initial outlays or any increases in total overall costs.
Thank you. Third question just from me related to the festivities at Mount Rushmore. Mayor and maybe even Pennington County can also address this. Do we have an idea about the expectations, again, costs, how much this is going to cost the city, how much this might be costing Pennington County Emergency Management to take care of all the needs that this visit entails?
Well, I could make a wild guess at this moment, but I think the right time to come up with that figure would be after the event, when we can calculate the number of resources used, overtime hours, things of that nature. But it would surprise me if it was any less than, just from a city standpoint, of $30,000 for that one day. So probably combined, more than that. But that's a guess. Other questions from anyone in the room?
Certainly not to monopolize this conference, Mayor. I appreciate you allowing me to ask an additional question. And again, talking about the communication that you've had with Secret Service, you say you have a good relationship with them when there are these types of events. So can you elaborate a little bit more about the communications that the city, county even, maybe have had with state government, the White House, FBI, Secret Service? Talk a little bit about the communications there.
Well, I'll just talk generally about it. It starts weeks in advance. There are a number of members of the security detail in town, on site. There are a delineation of duties to secure the area, not only where the president will be, but all of the vantage points overlooking it. It's a very complex thing. So our primary contact is the Secret Service, and then while surveying the land would be the Forest Service is also a big partner there, and we work very closely, the Police Department and Sheriff's Office. So we build a little bit of a team. FBI typically is not involved other than intelligence gathering, but there are a lot of resources available. It's a big deal. It really is. The amount of work that goes into it once it's over, it's really kind of breathtaking what it takes to pull one of these events off. Any other questions from anyone here? All right, well, thank you for attending. Again, I want to just highlight our friend Katie here for signing for us through all of this. We've decided it's a good thing for me not to be able to see her facial expressions and her movements because I would quickly become hypnotized by them. She's very expressive and very good at her job, so thank you, Katie. And thank you, Dustin, for being here. Thanks, everyone.